Who are you?
My name's Annie Borden, and I'm the Executive Director of CarShare Vermont.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit more about CarShare Vermont?
CarShare Vermont is a local Burlington-based nonprofit car sharing organization. Car sharing is basically a community-based transportation service that makes available a network of cars that our members can use whenever they want, 24/7, any time of day, for as little as 30 minutes or as long as they want. And what car sharing does is it provides an alternative to car ownership, and it can help reduce car use and car ownership without limiting mobility. So it lets a group of neighbors, for example, gain access to a car to use in short increments whenever they need to, and that the availability of that additional car in their neighborhood may help their households reduce their own household fleet. So a two-car family might go down to one car.
Great. So maybe you could tell me just a little bit about how and why you decided to spearhead CarShare Vermont.
Sure. Well, car sharing has been very successful. There's been a movement around the country where a lot of urban areas have developed car sharing programs, really as a way to reduce the negative impacts that cars have on our community, but recognizing that cars are part of the community, and let's just make more efficient, practical use of what we have, and try and get people to drive less. Also recognizing that those folks who lack access to a car are limited. So there's been this growth in car sharing organizations, and it originated in Europe and then made its way to North America about only 10 years ago, starting in communities like Boston, San Francisco Bay Area, Portland, Seattle. And I was involved in the group that started up City Car Share in San Francisco. My two friends were the founders, and I was their first employee. And so I got really interested in the concept of car sharing and the concept of communities sharing vehicles, and also that through car sharing we can improve our environment, we can save people money, and we can enhance our community. So my personal interest, I was excited about car sharing. I grew up in Vermont, and I moved back to Vermont a couple of years ago, and I found that there were some like-minded folks here in Burlington who thought that, hey, couldn't our community benefit from car sharing? And we thought beyond just Burlington as a community, but started to look at the state of Vermont. And we're very rural, we're very car dependent, and 46% of the greenhouse gases, or transportation accounts for 46% of the state's greenhouse gas emissions. So, and it's primarily single occupancy vehicles. So how can we help do that? And how can we make it easier for people to drive less, recognizing that just putting out bus routes to small rural towns was probably not very feasible. So the group started to organize, and I got involved and kind of volunteered to take the lead because I had a lot of practical experience running a car sharing organization, and we had a lot of eager volunteers and people who wanted to get involved. So it's really a community effort, and we decided to form as a nonprofit because we wanted to be mission driven, and we thought that being guided by our mission was the best way we could deliver a service that would be accessible and have the greatest impact.
Great. So you actually mentioned two words that are very important to me. One is community, and the other is impact. What would you say the greatest impact in the community here in Burlington is that you here at CarShare Vermont bring to Burlington?
We hope to have a kind of variety of impacts, and I guess not in any particular order. We hope to significantly reduce dependence on automobiles. So we would like to reduce the number of cars in our community. We love our community, and we know that cars are part of the picture, but we also see that if we spent less resources on cars and car infrastructure, we could be spending them on other better purposes. And we'd like to see a community that's designed for people and not just moving vehicles around. So, we down the road, we hope that car sharing is wildly successful, that we, have 50% fewer cars in our community, we see more people walking and biking and riding the bus, and that our community is really vibrant because we have a downtown center that's kind of car-free. That would be kind of an ideal. So we want to see fewer cars. We also recognize that there are members of our community who can't get groceries, can't get to the doctors, maybe can't take their kid to childcare because they can't afford to own a car. So we would like to see people using car sharing as an alternative to buying and not burdening themselves with the ongoing costs of and responsibility of having to be car owners to get around. We'd rather them, invest money in buying a house and buying food, things like that. So we want to see those impacts where we can increase mobility. And as a community, we think that if we can get people to share cars, because cars in our country are such a symbol of freedom and independence, that we can probably get people to share just about anything. So we try to have fun. First and foremost, we're a community-based organization. We try to emphasize that we're mission-driven and we're about our community. So we want sharing cars to build relationships, to give people something that they have fun doing and they feel proud about, but that it's also beneficial to them. We think car sharing can save our members significant amounts of money if they're currently sinking a lot of money into a car that they drive very rarely. So that's kind of the span of the impacts. And then down the road, we think that we can see some changes in our land use if we do have fewer cars in our community.
Right. Yeah, I think with the reduction of household or cars in the household, then obviously that creates environmental impact. And I'm very passionate about environmental conservation and protecting our planet. And personally for you, are you concerned with environmental or climate change?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that that's one of the key reasons we organized was thinking about the environmental impacts that cars have on society. So how car sharing can succeed at helping to combat climate change is that different studies have shown that each shared car that's put on the road removes 7 to 20 privately owned cars, which is huge. So you're gonna have just less cars spewing greenhouse gas emissions and other pollution, and you also have less energy used in time generating cars if we as a society need less of them. Also, when people join a car sharing organization, they tend to dramatically shift their driving behavior. And that's because with car sharing, members pay for their use. They pay directly proportional to how much they drive. And this makes them more mindful of the financial costs, and what we try to emphasize on the other end is the environmental costs, which they may not be aware of. So we do a lot of education and outreach. So each member, different studies show different results, but on average it shows that when people join a car sharing organization, they tend to reduce their driving by on average 50%, which is huge. So that means 50% fewer greenhouse gas emissions. It means they're conserving tons of fuel. And when a car share organization's fleet is alternatively fueled, for example, half of our fleet is hybrid Priuses, the impacts are even more significant. So we're only 5 months old now, so we haven't documented our own impact, but those are the results we'd like to emulate.